Her name was Lauren Ashley. Her life, bright, relentless, unstoppable, was suddenly cut short, in a way no one could have imagined. Late one night, the phone rang. On the other end, news that shattered a father's world. Malcolm Ashley was told his daughter's car had been found abandoned near the city beach. He dropped everything. Rushed into the night. A torch in his hand. A prayer in his chest. He scoured the shoreline, dark water crashing, shadows stretching, searching for any trace of her. But Lauren was nowhere to be found. To the outside world, Lauren's story looked perfect. The spirited young woman who had captured the heart of Nathaniel Fuja, the tall, serious athlete. Their romance began in high school. 3 years of love. 3 years of promise. 3 years that seemed unbreakable, until everything unraveled. What went wrong? What drove them apart? And why was the truth so unbearable for people to accept? Lauren's journey began on April 1, 1993, in Boston, Massachusetts. The only child of Mary and Malcolm Ashley, both teachers, both utterly devoted to her. Even after their divorce, they remained united in one mission, to give their daughter every ounce of love and support. She was just 18, but her life was already overflowing with purpose. Lauren was everywhere, doing everything. Music, sports, theater. Church choirs and youth symphonies. Camp counseling and community service. She was small in stature, just 4 feet 11 inches, but her presence was impossible to ignore. Her voice, strong and captivating, made her the star of nearly every stage she touched. From the school a cappella group to the local arts center, she wasn't just performing, she was commanding. And beyond talent, there was heart. Lauren's classmates admired her kindness, her honesty, her ability to make anyone feel seen. If someone needed help, she never hesitated. She gave her all, always. At only 12 years old, she traveled to New Orleans to help victims of Hurricane Katrina. Not once. Not twice. 3 times. A child, choosing to wade through devastation to serve others. This was who she was, light, selfless, unshakably compassionate. A daughter. A friend. A voice that carried far beyond music. At Wayland High School, Lauren was unforgettable. In classrooms, on fields, on stage, she left a mark that still lingers. But behind the applause, behind the admiration, an unthinkable tragedy was already set in motion. Lauren Ashley was more than just admired, she was followed. Her spark, her style, her energy, she didn't simply fit in. She set the pace. Friends called her a trendsetter. Others tried to mirror her light. And in the middle of this rising glow, came her first love. Nathaniel Fuja. He had known her since childhood. The golden boy of Wayland High. A towering athlete, fast on the field, adored by crowds. At every game, girls screamed his name, but his eyes always returned to Lauren. To the outside world, it was the perfect pairing. The star athlete and the radiant young woman. A couple who seemed untouchable. Nathaniel's roots ran deep in music. His father, Tom Fuja, a respected guitarist and teacher at Berkeley, carried his own shine in the Boston art scene. Lauren admired that. She even interviewed him for a school project, something that still lingers online. Through Nathan, Lauren became woven into the Fuja household. Family dinners. Laughter. Late-night visits. For a while, it seemed she belonged there. But perfection is fragile. And love, when poisoned by jealousy, becomes a slow-burning fuse. The cracks began quietly. Arguments. Breakups. Reconciliations. Then repeating. Again and again, until the cycle itself felt endless. One day, they were inseparable. The next, they couldn't stand each other. And beneath it all, darkness. Nathaniel, adored by many, carried his own demons. Possessiveness. Jealousy. A temper that flared without warning. He hated the way Lauren gave herself to the world. Her kindness, her openness, because it meant she belonged to others as much as to him. By senior year, Lauren was standing on the edge of something bigger. The world was calling. College, new people, a new life. She could feel it, and she knew Nathaniel was no longer part of that vision. Her friends saw it too. They made a list, clear, undeniable reasons to leave. His temper. His jealousy. His aggression. His disrespect, even to his own mother. The truth was undeniable. The cycle had to end. And so, on her 18th birthday, April 1, 2011, Lauren made the choice. She ended it. And for her, it felt like freedom. A gift to herself. She called it one of the best days of her life. But for Nathaniel, rejection was not the end. It was the spark. The beginning of something far more dangerous. On paper, the timing made sense. 2 young lives. 2 new colleges. 2 different futures. For Lauren, it was a natural step forward. But for Nathaniel Fuja, the breakup was not an ending. It was a collapse. The football dreams he had chased since boyhood began to wither. The scholarship, the promise, the future, none of it mattered anymore. All he could see, all he could obsess over, was Lauren. The golden boy who once trained endlessly and basked in applause now sank into silence. Days spent sprawled on the couch. Eyes empty. Friends abandoned. His motivation evaporating into smoke, literally. Alcohol, marijuana, and isolation became his new rituals. And even though Lauren had moved on, she still worried. She still asked if she should reach out. Her friends, almost pleading, told her no. Don't give him hope. Don't let him think there's a way back. But Nathan didn't need hope. He clung to obsession. That summer, 2011, Lauren was ready to breathe again. Ready for joy. Her friends planned a massive party, one last celebration before adulthood. A tent, music, laughter. Over 100 students. And Nathan. At first, it felt harmless. But alcohol blurred his restraint. Drunk, desperate. He cornered her. Tried to talk, to reconcile. Lauren held firm. She told him, again, that it was over. Final. But to Nathan, rejection was gasoline. He followed her across the dance floor, shadowing her every step. Watching who she spoke to. Stopping her from dancing. She broke down in tears, whispering to a friend that he simply wouldn't leave her alone. And then, rage. In one explosive moment, he slammed his fists into a tent pole, toppling the entire structure over 150 people. The party collapsed in chaos. Friends pulled the canvas back into place, but the damage was done. The night was ruined. The mask had slipped. Even Lauren's mother noticed the change. Lauren confessed to her, Nathan was furious. He hated seeing her happy without him. He refused to let her go. For a while, the storm seemed to pass. Lauren found work at a mall clothing store. A temporary job before college, nothing unusual. On July 3, 2011, security cameras caught her walking in at 9:45 a.m. bright. Smiling. Normal. At 6:45 p.m., cameras caught her again, walking out, phone pressed to her ear. That image would be her last. She never arrived home. Never changed clothes. Never met her friends for the evening walk she had promised. The alarm was immediate. Her father, Malcolm, knew something was wrong. This wasn't Lauren. She always called. Always showed. He phoned the police, without hesitation. Unlike most missing person cases, there was no waiting period. The search began instantly. And then, the discovery. Lauren's red Jeep, parked at Wanton Beach. Windows down. Her bag inside. Laptop on the seat. But Lauren, gone. The moment Malcolm heard, he sprinted to the shoreline. Torch in hand, heart pounding, as if he might still find her alive in the waves. He scoured the beach. Nothing. Her friends gathered by the water's edge. They waited through the night, clinging to the thought that she might appear. None of them wanted to believe the truth, that harm could come to someone so pure. Police pressed her family for answers. Who would want to hurt her? Who could have taken her? At first, no one could think of a name. But then came the pause. The hesitation. The uncomfortable truth that had been looming from the beginning. Lauren Ashley had just broken up with her boyfriend. At first, no one wanted to believe it. Yes, Nathan was moody, jealous, broken by the breakup. But violent? Dangerous? Unthinkable. Her friends defended him. He would never. But the police saw what others refused to. They knew jealousy, mixed with obsession, could be lethal. And Nathaniel Fuja was now their prime suspect. That very evening, officers knocked on his door. Nathan stood there beside his mother, Beth. His voice calm. His story rehearsed. He claimed he had been home all night. That Lauren had stopped by only briefly, 5 minutes at most. She never even got out of her car. And then she left. On the surface, it was believable. But investigators knew better. Nathan had been spiraling. 4 months. Withdrawn. Depressed. Drinking. Smoking. His own mother had dragged him to therapy, nothing changed. She even approached Lauren at the mall, begging her to help Nathan move on. A desperate act from a parent who didn't realize just how dangerous her son had become. And then, the discovery. A cyclist, pedaling before sunrise, spotted something in a marsh. At first, a shape, floating in the water. But as she drew closer, horror took form. It was Lauren. Her body, just 5 miles from town. Pulled from the dark water, the truth was undeniable, her throat had been slashed. An elastic cord tangled in her hair. The life of an 18-year-old, ended with brutality no one could fathom. When Malcolm Ashley was called to identify the body of his only child, he clung to a sliver of hope. Maybe it isn't her. Maybe they're wrong. But when he pulled back the sheet, he knew. His daughter was gone. The kind, gifted, radiant girl whose voice once filled concert halls, now silenced forever. The town reeled in disbelief. Friends who once saw Nathan and Lauren as inseparable now scrambled for explanations. They insisted, he loved her, he wouldn't, he couldn't. But police were piecing together a darker reality. Lauren had noticed his changes, his bitterness, his obsession. Out of kindness, she agreed to see him one last time. A 5-minute stop. Just long enough, she thought, to ease his pain. That 5 minutes became fatal. Security footage confirmed it, her final phone call was to Nathan. At 7:05 p.m., she texted a single word, "Here." It was the last message she ever sent. When officers searched Nathan's home, the truth unfolded piece by piece. Blood traces, on the garage floor, on doorknobs, in sinks. Someone had tried to clean up, but not well enough. In the attic, boots, trainers, clothing, all stained with Lauren's blood. Mud caked into the soles, identical to the marsh where her body was found. The evidence was overwhelming. Nathaniel Fuja was officially wanted for murder. Within hours, they found him hiding at a cousin's home. Just after midnight, July 4, 2011, the arrest was made. The star athlete. The boy next door. now charged with first-degree murder. In custody, Nathan said nothing. Cold. Detached. Even in court, when asked for his plea, his answer was barely audible, not guilty. His defense hinted at an insanity strategy. But prosecutors saw something else: control, anger, and intent. And the deeper they dug, the more chilling the history became. 2 years earlier, during one of their many breakups, Lauren had attended a school dance. She shared a kiss with another boy. Nathan appeared from the shadows, shoving the boy and hissing a threat: "If you ever touch her again, I'll slit your throat." It had been dismissed as teenage jealousy. Forgotten as time passed. But now, that past looked less like an outburst. And more like a warning. The truth had always been there, hidden in plain sight. Nathan's jealousy. His possessiveness. His temper when he drank. But no one believed it would lead here. Not until it was too late. 2 years before Lauren's death, his threat to slit a boy's throat seemed like nothing more than teenage rage. But when investigators looked at Lauren's wounds, the deep slash, the brutal strangulation, that moment from the past came roaring back. The warning had been real. And now, it was prophecy fulfilled. 18 months after Lauren Ashley's murder, the trial began. February 13, 2013. From the start, the defense didn't deny Nathan killed her. Instead, they argued something darker: insanity. They painted Nathan as a shattered young man, crushed by heartbreak, warped by repeated football head injuries, drowning in alcohol and drugs. Diagnosed with severe depression, refusing treatment. A boy who had slipped so far into the abyss that, on July 3, 2011, he didn't know what he was doing. Their story was simple: in a manic episode, he snapped. He grabbed an elastic cord in the garage. He wrapped it around Lauren's neck. He slashed her throat. He wasn't himself. His body acted, but his mind was gone. According to the defense, this wasn't murder. This was madness. But the prosecution saw something else. Calculation. Control. Revenge. They told the jury Nathan had called Lauren multiple times that day, lured her to his house when he knew his parents were away. He led her into the garage, not to talk, but to kill. The autopsy revealed defensive wounds. She fought. She begged. But Nathan pressed forward. And when it was over, his actions spoke louder than any plea of insanity. He cleaned. He hid blood-soaked boots and clothing. He abandoned her Jeep miles away. He dumped her body in a marsh, hoping it would sink. And then, he returned home, stripped naked, blasting music through the night air as if nothing had happened. That wasn't confusion. That wasn't madness. That was cover-up. The courtroom felt like a war zone of grief and science. Psychiatrists for the defense claimed Nathan was incapable of knowing right from wrong. His depression, concussions, and drug use had destroyed his judgment. The state's experts countered. Every step he took, every call, every lie, every attempt to erase the evidence, proved intent. Proved he knew exactly what he was doing. And through it all, Lauren's family sat in silence. Her mother, eyes red, hands clenched, listened as the medical examiner revealed the cruelest detail of all: Lauren hadn't died instantly. She lived for minutes after her throat was cut. Conscious. Bleeding. Aware. At 20 years old, Nathan finally broke in court. Hunched forward, sobbing, only now realizing the weight of what he had done, not when he strangled her. Not when he cut her throat. Not when he hid the body. But when he saw the walls of justice close in. His parents, once proud of their son, now sat devastated. They had loved Lauren as their own. They had believed their boy was good. But the truth was undeniable. Their son was a murderer. 2 families. Once joined by love, now bound forever by tragedy. The Ashleys, who had lost their only child. The Fujas, forced to face the unbearable truth, that their son was a killer. March 7, 2013. After a full day of deliberation, the jury returned. The courtroom fell silent. Nathan Fuja, guilty on all charges. Justice, at last. But justice cannot resurrect the dead. As the sentence was read, Lauren's father, Malcolm, did something extraordinary. He crossed the aisle. He embraced Nathan's parents. Both families shattered. Both grieving. Both carrying losses that could never be repaired. It was a gesture of grace, of strength, a reminder that compassion can exist even in the darkest of moments. Nathan Fuja was sentenced to life in prison. In Massachusetts, first-degree murder carries no parole. For many, that should have been the end. But for Lauren's parents, the wound never closed. They believed her death could have been prevented. And in their grief, they built something lasting, the Lauren Ashley Memorial Foundation. A non-profit dedicated to what Lauren loved most, art, community, compassion. They used her story to educate teens about the hidden dangers of relationship and breakup violence. Turning their daughter's tragedy into a mission of protection. Yet even now, the past refuses to rest. In January 2024, the Massachusetts Supreme Court overturned a law requiring anyone under 20 at the time of their crime to serve life without parole. For the Ashleys, that ruling reignited a nightmare, the fear that one day, Nathan Fuja could walk free. Imagine that. The man who lured their daughter to his home. The man who strangled her, cut her throat, and left her to die. Could one day breathe free air again. For Malcolm and Mary, there is no parole. No second chance. No release from their sentence. Their sentence is life, life without their daughter. Lauren Ashley was 18. Brilliant. Gifted. Compassionate. And her story will never be forgotten. Because even in the face of cruelty, her light remains. Lesson from this crime story. 1. Love is not control. Love, at its core, is meant to be freeing. It should give you the space to grow, to dream, to flourish as yourself, not as a possession of someone else. Too often, people confuse control with care. They think constant check-ins, demands, or jealousy prove devotion. But the truth is far darker. When someone begins to dictate who you can see, where you can go, or how you should feel, they're not protecting you, they're trapping you. This case shows us that control, disguised as love, can become a prison with invisible bars. Lauren's story reminds us that the healthiest relationships thrive on trust, not chains. Control suffocates, love nurtures. Control breaks spirits, love lifts them. When we accept control as love, we silently open the door to toxic behavior that can spiral into emotional abuse and, in the worst cases, violence. Real love means saying, I want you to be happy, even if your happiness isn't with me. It is the ability to let go, not the obsession to hold tighter. For young people, especially, this lesson is crucial. Never mistake controlling behavior for affection. If your partner cannot respect your choices, your independence, and your freedom, then what you're experiencing isn't love, it's possession. And possession, as we've seen in this story, can destroy lives. 2. Jealousy can be a warning sign. Jealousy is often romanticized in movies and songs as proof of passion. Someone loves you so much they can't bear to see you with anyone else. But in reality, jealousy is rarely about love. It's about insecurity, control, and fear of losing power. At first, it may look harmless, a raised eyebrow when you talk to someone new, a half-joking comment about who you were texting. But jealousy, left unchecked, does not stay small. It grows. It feeds on suspicion. And soon, what once seemed like harmless teasing turns into constant questioning, monitoring, or accusations that make you feel like you're on trial for crimes you never committed. In Lauren's case, Nathaniel's jealousy was an early sign that something was wrong. He hated seeing her share her energy and kindness with others, interpreting her generosity as betrayal. He wanted her attention, her time, her everything, as if she didn't have the right to belong to the world beyond him. For a teenager in love, it might not have looked dangerous at first. To friends, it may have seemed like an intense relationship, maybe even flattering that he cared so much. But jealousy isn't proof of love, it's proof of fear and control. The warning signs were there: outbursts when she danced with another boy, threats disguised as anger, his growing bitterness whenever she pulled away. Each of those moments was a signal, a flashing red light, that this relationship was not safe. Too often, people excuse jealousy as normal, especially in young couples. But it is not normal when it starts to dictate your freedom, your friendships, your happiness. It is not normal when your partner treats you like property instead of a person. Jealousy is not romantic, it is dangerous. It corrodes trust, twists love into obsession, and in extreme cases, fuels violence. Lauren's tragedy forces us to ask, how many times have we dismissed jealousy as just a phase, instead of recognizing it as a warning? The lesson is clear: if jealousy is persistent, controlling, or violent, it must never be ignored. Jealousy is not proof that someone loves you, it's proof that they may not know how to. Pay attention to red flags. Threats, violent words, or sudden outbursts should never be brushed aside as just anger. They can foreshadow something far worse. Breakups should be respected. No one owes anyone a second chance. When someone says, "It's over," the healthiest response is acceptance, not retaliation. Mental health must be addressed. Untreated depression, substance abuse, and trauma.